Now, agribusiness is worth about 24 billion to the Irish economy, and so it's no surprise then to see that farming has become sexy again, with young people flocking back to the land. But they have moved with the times. It's all high-tech down the farm now. To tell us more about it, please welcome three young farmers, Jamie Costin, Ciaran Lenihan and Maeve O Keeffe. Jamie, how are you doing? Ciaran, how are you? Guys, you're very welcome. How are you doing?
Good.
So maybe if we just go down the line and get everyone's story first briefly. So Maeve, you're a sixth generation farmer, is that right?
That's correct. I'm a sixth generation dairy farmer. I'm in partnership with my parents and we're in East Cork, just outside a small village called Ballyknoe.
Okay, and is it a big farm? I know they never are, but...
We're milking 130 cows.
Okay, and are you running the farm yourself?
Well, I'm heavily involved in it. My father is involved in it, and we also have a full-time worker as well.
Okay. How old are you, Maeve?
25.
Right. Maeve, I don't want to be sexist or anything here, but can I ask, would you tend to be the exception rather than the rule in farming?
Well, I suppose I was the only girl in college in my class. So I suppose there isn't too many lady farmers out there.
Yeah.
But I believe, like, I've always had a love for farming ever since I was small. And I suppose when I was filling out the CAO form, I was like, farming is what I like to do.
Yeah.
And I suppose it's whatever you're passionate about, no matter what it is. I think whatever you like, you'll excel at it. So I picked farming because that's what I like.
That's what you love and you have your passion. Ciaran, you're a beef farmer, am I right?
So I'm Brendan, yeah.
I kind of get the impression that's more kind of gentleman farming. Is it kind of like Michael O'Leary? You look over your limousines once a week or two and then...
There's a little bit more to it than that, Brendan.
Is there, right?
A little bit, especially at this time of year with calving. But there's three gentlemen involved in our farm at home. So there's myself, my dad who's here, and my little brother.
Right.
And we all have interests outside. So our operation is technically part-time, though at this time of the year, we're calving down. So there's always something to do.
Yeah.
So I'm doing my PhD at the minute in Teagasc, which is about 15 minutes away from our farm. Say this week I was out twice during the day to calve cows and back in, but it's part-time, but there's times a year when it gets hectic, like everything. But
yeah.
A big plus is I'm not getting up at 5 o'clock tomorrow morning to milk cows like these two.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and so you're Jamie, you're dairy as well, yeah?
Yeah.
But no, people probably recognise you, Jamie, because you were a professional athlete for a long time before you became a farmer.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, I competed 2 Olympic Games beforehand. So for me, like Maeve, I sort of had a love of farming always, but I had sort of dreamed to be an Olympic athlete, so that's what I wanted to do with myself. So I had to get away from the farm as such before I came back to the farm.
Yeah.
And I think coming back, I was 35 when I came back home, and I'm farming in partnership with my parents, and I've a manager, Edward, at home on the farm as well, and a student, Stephen. So for me, come back into that environment, it was great because I had a lot of experience around me, and then I had a lot of experience from my own life outside the farm to come back to as well.
And so are you allowed to run the farm now, or
what would you say, Brent? The committee, I think, is what runs it from time to time, you know.
Yeah.
So that's the way it's run at home.
Yeah, and I'm sure they know more than you do about everything, do they?
Absolutely, I'll always be the young fella, so that's the way it is.
Yeah, yeah. So am I right in saying, guys, that there is a kind? Because I remember 10 or 20 years ago, it was all talk about that the younger generation were deserting the land and didn't want to take over the farms and heading off and all that, and that there does seem to be a return to farming, and that the agricultural colleges are all full and all that kind of thing.
Seems to be. I think it came with the downturn, really. You know, like there's so much building going on that a lot of people who would have been enticed into farming during the boom times, they were getting a lot more money as bricklayers and other things. So there wasn't really that much. And farming can be a hard life at times. It's a great lifestyle, but I think being a 9-to-5 builder where you're block laying and you're getting a lot of money for it, rather than calving down a herd of suckler cows or dairy cows, can be an easier job.
Yeah. And is there good money in farming, Maeve?
I suppose you have to work hard at it. Like, you know, you're up at 6:30 in the morning. You might think you're finished at 6 o'clock in the evening, like I thought I was during the week. I went out to check the cows bulling, and sure, there was one calving, and it was 10 o'clock before I was going to bed after. So, Do you know, like it's not a 9 to 5 job, definitely, but
Yeah.
it definitely does have its perks.
What are the perks?
This morning, for instance, up at 6:30, beautiful morning, lovely sunset, going out to bring in a herd of cows, no back chat from anyone. And I suppose it's a nice lifestyle. There's a good balance between, like, I could never see myself inside in an office full time. Whereas I like the mix. I like being out in the farm with fresh air, and I also like being in the office a small bit.
So there's
as well.
a lot. There's the business side of it as well
Definitely.
to be looked after.
Yes.
And tell me, but like, Ciaran mentioned it there, the relentlessness of like that the cows need to be milked twice a day, come hell or high water. Is it? Are you terribly attached to it, like, and unable to kind of get away? And
No, I wouldn't say so. You have to have someone that you can rely on to come in, and if you're willing to leave somebody else milk the cows for you, to leave you off for a day.
would some people not be willing? No.
Some farmers would like it done the same way that they do it every day, and they'd be afraid in case another person wouldn't do it the same way as what they're used to up to their standards.
But listen, if you're lying on the beach somewhere, what you don't know can't hurt you. Like, as long as they're getting the milk out, it's all right, isn't it? So you'd be of the school of thought if you would trust someone else to do
definitely.
it, obviously. Yeah. So, Ciaran, you were mentioning that there's a kind of a seasonality in the beef business. So now is the busy time.
Yeah, I suppose in our end of things, we calve over 8 weeks, and as I said, my father is working. I'm doing my PhD. My brother's in college. And the cows don't calve down according to your schedule, believe it or not. So we have cameras which are a godsend, but we can assume complete control of the process. But look, there's always someone always needs to be close by within 15, 20 minutes to get home, because as beef farmers, that's where we make our money.
Do they need help, all of them giving birth?
No, they don't, Brendan, but I suppose we're kind of trying to produce a top quality animal, which means, like, we use AI sires, which basically means we pick our bulls out of a catalogue. Like, they're the top bulls in the country, if not on the continent, and we can breed our animals to those cows. And some of them produce bigger calves than your run-of-the-mill. Now, a lot of lads would be kind of against doing that, but there's 3 able-bodied men. We've bred all our cows to be big and well able to do it. So look, we do that, and we found that even assisting them along, you're not supposed to assist them, but that's what you're told, but we found that even assisting them along slightly it's more comfort for man and beast, you know what I mean? It's peace of mind, you move things along quick and you get the ordeal over with. And look, we assist more than most beef lads would, but it works well for us.
Okay, and so the cameras are where? Are they in the house? Are they the screens? You're watching it in the house, is it?
Yeah, so it's simple. You're watching Coronation Street and you flick it onto channel, you hit AV, and you've got your live feed from the shed literally up on the screen, and it's cycling between. We have 6 or 7 cameras. It's cycling between those, and you have 10 seconds in each one, and you can select if something's happening in a certain pen. You can select that pen, and it's as simple as that.
And the way it would have been before, you would have been in and out checking on them all the time.
You're over and back, and look, calving follows a kind of a biological timeline, so you know what should be happening, how long it should be taking. So with the cameras, you can it's a play-by-play. You know what's happening, when to assist and when not to assist, which is crucial. Whereas if you're going over every now and then, you don't know what stage she's at.
Yeah.
So, I'm not going to go into the nitty-gritties of it now, but
okay, no. Let's not.
It.
Yeah. So technology obviously then is changing the way farming is for this generation and everything. Like, for example, Maeve, you were saying that the iPhone is a major tool for you now, yeah?
Yeah, well, same as Ciaran, I'd use the iPhone as well for checking the cows calving in the calving period. But also it's more than that. Like, I can stand out in the field and see a cow tag number, type it into the phone, and I'll have all her history. I'll know when she's due to calve, what bull she was inseminated with. I'll know her milk.
It's like
her
Facebook
milk yield,
basically
everything.
for cows. All their private information is up there for anyone to see.
And you have it out in the field.
Yeah. Okay. There's another thing I wanted to ask about as well, which came up. I think both of the dairy guys, you measure grass. Is that right, Jamie?
Absolutely. I know it sounds a bit strange, but you have to measure the grass. The biggest advantage Irish farmers have is the climate. We're able to grow a lot more crops and grass than, say, most other countries in Europe, because it gets so dry during the summer. So for us to be able to utilise the grass as it's growing by the cows eating it fresh off the ground is probably the most cost-effective way of building a dairy industry, because you're going to be able to do it very cheaply. So milk price is coming down at the moment. So what that helps is that helps with our cost base. So if you can keep the cost base low.
So if you're having to give them like fodder or grain or whatever, it's way more expensive than.
Well, the estimates would be a kilo of grazed grass would be about 6 to 7 cents. Silage, which would be preserved grass, would be about 18 cents, and then meal could be anywhere between 22 and 30 cents. So you're talking 4 to 5 times more expensive. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And what? Just explain. No, I'm sorry for my ignorance here. Why are you measuring the grass exactly?
To know the optimum height would be about 8 inches, so about 1,500 kilos dry matter. That's you take your you go out into the field and you cut a square of grass, and you're able to work out off an equation exactly how much grass is in the field from that. So then you know when is the optimum time to go in, because like the protein levels in milk are hugely important now as well. It's not just a litre of milk you're producing, because like in Ireland we're exporting more than 80%, 86-87% of the milk that we produce, and that's mostly going away in lactose and whey protein and baby formula.
Yeah.
So we're using high-end products that Ireland is producing, really top-end products. So that's why the protein and fat needs to be very high in the milk, and that's most effectively done off of grazed grass.
Okay. With the previous generation, obviously, they wouldn't have been scientists to the extent that ye have to be now, would they?
They'd probably have a fair idea by eyeballing, but
Yeah.
it's kind of
They had it in their bones and
Yeah,
their waters,
exactly,
like
yeah.
But I think, Brendan, there's another thing, that there's a huge competitive advantage in Ireland, because we've got an independent research board, Tagasc, which is the reason that we have that equation to be able to figure out how much grass is in the field, you know, because Tagasc is doing fantastic work, and you're working with them as well, Ciaran, you know. So like the simple thing is they're an independent body that's trying to find the most profitable way for farmers to expand and grow, and for it to be sustainable as well, you know.
Yeah. So when I was saying there in the intro about the agribusiness being worth 24 billion, and obviously over the last few years, the kind of talk about growth in Ireland has been to do with either foreign direct investment, or else there's been a lot of talk about the food industry, obviously. So do you think this is going to be a big thing in our economy going forward? Like, could this be something that could kind of save the Irish economy, do you reckon? Ciaran?
Well, two things need to happen, Brendan,
for
agriculture to kind of hit its potential. Firstly, kind of the right people have to be afforded the opportunities in the right positions, both at farm level and at industry level. We need
What do you mean by that?
Educated, driven, shrewd people need to be given the opportunity to like go in at farms to get farms, because land is very hard to come by in Ireland, but also to get into your Glanbias, etc. Then we can hit our production potential.
So are you saying, just Ciaran, to be clear, is the problem at the moment then that a lot of the young educated crowd like you can't get your hands on land basically because it's all being held by older people?
Look, we have a farm at home, but there's no doubt that there's a lot of land tied up in families. Like land prices in Ireland are nearly the most expensive in Europe, if not the world.
There's a huge bubble in farmland prices, isn't there? Yeah.
But just further on my point, like we've production to massively increase potential, both in beef and dairy. But the problem is that, as Jamie said, 80 to 90% or 80% of dairy is export. We produce far too much of it. Beef is the same. 90+% of our beef goes internationally. Once there is markets for those products, so you see what's happening in America and in China, that they are starting to take our beef. But we can't produce. There's no point us producing mountains and mountains of beef and milk and cheese and yogurt if we've no market for it. So that's up to the powers that be way up the line.
Okay.
To market our produce.
I thought the impression in general was that they were doing a good job of selling Ireland as a food island, and that our stuff is good premium, and that the Chinese like our baby formula and all that kind of stuff.
They do, but like it needs to improve. Like if you're a German in a German supermarket, you see German beef and you see Irish beef. It's like us. Like you're going to kind of be patriotic about the thing. Like the reality is that a lot of Irish beef is minced, and it's not what you might think, but I suppose
so we're not selling out there as a premium product to the extent that we should be, is it?
I'm not really aware. Like from what I've heard, it's not. But look, that can all be improved.
And the other thing is we're upping the milk production now. It's going to go through the roof as well, isn't it? And everyone is geared to like ramp up their production and get more cows in and all that. So, but you're saying that actually
There needs to be markets, especially
Yeah.
for beef. Now, I wouldn't be in a position to talk on the dairy markets, but I know beef, the markets need to be there, and we have beef as. I always see beef as a piggyback industry on dairy. So whatever happens in dairy, grass measuring or genetic breakthroughs, you'll find 2 or 3 years later that the beef industry will do the same thing. But again, the markets maybe they are there for the dairy because the expansion is happening and so on and so forth. But for beef has huge potential, huge potential in Ireland.
Yeah.
But the reality is beef, I think 45% of beef farms are part-time. So maybe the time isn't there for lads to up it, and they're just happy to keep tipping along, in these kind of extensive systems.
Yeah. So does it need bigger farms then? Because we do have a lot of
not bigger farms,
just
better
more
farms.
intensive optimizing of what's there.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
But as I said, it's hard to do on a part-time basis, Brent. It's very hard to do.
Okay. One of the things that used to be said, 10, 20 years ago, that they used to say, the reason the young people don't want to get into farming and all that is because it can be a very isolated kind of life and there isn't a great social life, and there was obviously Mocker and Firma and all that kind of thing, but is that still the case? Is it difficult to have a social life if you have the grind of the milking all the time, for example?
I suppose during the calving period is one time that few weeks are hectic.
Yeah.
But for the rest of the year, it's definitely possible to have a social life. And I suppose we have discussion groups now as well, where I'm involved in a discussion group and you meet up with a group of farmers once a month. And there's definitely, if you want to have a social life, it's there. If you want.
And I presume you would want to have a social life.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Now, Maeve, I want to talk to you about clipping hooves. So would you want to explain to people first how it is traditionally done?
Okay, well, first of all, lameness is a very common occurrence in dairy cows and beef cattle as well. 20 to 50% of all dairy cows go lame annually, so it's a big problem.
Right.
And it can be caused by many different factors. It can be caused by something as simple as a stone going up into a cow's hoof, and it creates an infection. So you have to get to the root of that infection, and you can do that by using sharp knives. However, the current method is you tie a rope around the cow's leg and you winch it up. So the cow is left standing on its other 3 legs, and you're there trying to manually hold the other leg and pare away at the hoof to get to the root of the infection.
And the farmers do this themselves, yeah?
Farmers do it themselves, or professional hoof trimmers or vets are called in to do the work as well.
Okay. And the cows would find the old standing on 3 legs a little bit
well,
unstable,
the cows would be
would
they'd be in a lot of pain because it's an infection in their foot.
Yeah.
And also they'd be a bit nervous because it's something new to them as well, and having one leg hoisted up into the air.
Yeah.
So I suppose I worked on a dairy farm in New Zealand for 1.5 years, and I learned how to hoof trim the cows over there. So then when I returned back to our own dairy farm in Ireland, we have an engineering business on the farm as well. So I said, look, if we develop some kind of a crush that would take the physical work out of it, because I wouldn't be physically strong enough anyway to push these animals into the crate and be winching up legs.
Right.
So I was saying to Dad, if we had a crush, that I'd be able to manage myself and get the cows into it myself without you having to be around or anyone else. I'd hoof trim our own cows. Because typically what we'd do is we'd wait till we 2 or 3 of them together, because you would need 2 people to go at it. Otherwise you'd wait till you 2 or 3 together before you call in the hoof trimmer or the vet, because there's a call-out fee.
Yeah, of course,
So we just developed a turnover crush. It's all hydraulically operated.
So I think we have a video of it here. We'll explain it to people.
So this is a mobile unit. This is the fixed unit then. There's 2 different units, so it's hydraulically operated.
So hang on a minute. Is that the cow going over on its side there?
Yeah.
Is the cow okay with that? Do you see?
That's what we couldn't believe at the start. We couldn't believe how quiet and how content the cows were when they're actually turned on their side. Because when you lift, with the traditional method where you lift one leg off the ground, they're very nervous and they're hopping around on the other 3 legs, and they still have quite a lot of force to give you a lash out as well.
Yeah.
But when they're up in the turnover crush, as soon as the 4 feet are up off the ground, they're resting into 2 belly bands and they're completely relaxed. And at that point you can restrain the 4 legs, so it's safer for the operator and for the animal, and you can turn the animal on its side, and you full access then to the 4 feet instead of just one that's lame. And also you can carry out other treatments as well.
I'm sold. I'm sold. I'm going to get one for the kids for cutting their toenails because they do get very. Now, Maeve, your grandparents are here in the audience. Hi guys, how are you? And I know that your granddad has been trying to get a winning streak for years, hasn't he?
That's correct. He buys those scratch cards the whole time.
Yeah, but why did he want to get on winning streak?
My grandparents were entrepreneurs as well. They set up an open farm in Dungourney, County Cork. It's running now with 20 years. There's about 300 people come to the farm a day. It's a big tourist attraction down in Cork. And I suppose he's been dying to get on to winning streak to tell everybody about Leahy's open farm. and it's not your average open farm either. They've real JCB diggers for kids to go play in, and there's a lot of hands-on with the animals.
Okay, you got enough now. You didn't got that much on winning streak.
So they're here tonight, and they'd like to offer everyone in the audience a free family pass to the open farm.
Hey! Guys, I'd love to talk to you more because there's clearly a lot of interesting stuff to be teased out there. Maybe we do it again. And I have to say, though, that talking to Ollie, it would seem like that there is a great new generation coming up who are going to bring farming in Ireland onto another level, and that there's a lot of ingenuity and entrepreneurship there. It's great talking to you. Ladies and gentlemen, Maeve, Ciaran and Jamie.